It's that time of year again, and you know it is because the signs are everywhere. In commercials, on billboards, social media posts, every single email from Hot Topic. But also pizza? Yes, in addition to the availability of frozen Surfer Boy pizza, Domino's has partnered with Stranger Things too, and you can order a pizza with your mind or something. I'm not sure. It seems a little strange. Anyway, I feel like not since Game of Thrones have we had such a global television event for a TV show like Stranger Things. But what made this show a worldwide sensation? For season 4, the first 7 episodes were released on Netflix on May 27, 2022, and the final 2 were released on July 1st. From May 30th to June 5th, the show broke Nielsen streaming records by hitting 7.2 billion minutes viewed, which is the highest weekly amount recorded since they started keeping track in 2020. And apparently there was so much traffic that Netflix crashed during the premiere. Twitter is full of spoilers and memes, and you can't scroll through your TikTok feed without hearing Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. So why this show in particular? What made an 80s themed horror series about a group of 12-year-olds rise to such tremendous popularity? It seems like such a specific type of show to become the one that caught everyone's attention. Of course, you could say it's popular just because it's a good show, but there are plenty of even better shows that never get this kind of viewership, even if they deserve it. As I was watching the last 2 episodes of this season, I realized I felt so much social pressure to see them as soon as possible. So I started thinking about why. What made Stranger Things so mainstream despite it seeming so niche? I think it might come down to a few things that I'll be breaking down in this video. Mainly our fascination with the time period, our ability to relate to the young characters, and how these two aspects interact with the sci-fi horror elements to create thrilling moments and in turn promote discussion online. Throughout these last 2 years, we have really been attached to television, using it as a form of escapism during these hard times, and as a way to connect with others, whether it be in person or online. We've had shows with similar shared online experiences like WandaVision and Tiger King, but Stranger Things seems to be more of a global hit. Season 4 reached the top 10 in all 93 countries that Netflix keeps track of viewership. So why did it blow up to this level of popularity? Well, let's talk about one of the first things that helped capture everyone's interest, the show's delightful setting of the 1980s. This time period is nostalgic for many people, especially for millennials and Gen X, which make up the largest share of subscribers to Netflix. The creators, the Duffer Brothers, were inspired by many different classic films they loved growing up. They were strongly influenced by directors and writers like Steven Spielberg, Stephen King, and John Carpenter. The creators didn't want the series to rely on gore for the scares, so they instead focused on building a suspenseful mood and dark atmosphere that reminds us of 80s movies that had similar PG-13 ratings. There are an abundance of narrative and visual comparisons of the show to horror movies of the 80s. For example, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Firestarter. Honestly, Stranger Things is basically like the good Firestarter movie we never got.
What?
Anyway, a little girl with psychic powers being hunted by the government. The inspiration is quite clear. And for A Nightmare on Elm Street, well, we get a few visual nods to it, with the Demogorgon in the first season pushing through the wallpaper, reminiscent of Freddy Krueger when he's pursuing Nancy Thompson. But not just horror movies are alluded to in the series, as we also see similarities to non-horror 80s films like E.T., Stand By Me, and even Akira. Akira, with the government using children for experiments. Stand By Me, with us following a group of 4 young boys as they make life-changing discoveries. E.T., of course, with the kids being chased on bikes while helping out a stranger. Granted, Eleven's not an alien, but they could both do cool things with their minds and hands, so I mean, pretty much the same. There is so much more than that, and in fact there are so many references across the series, it's pretty fun to try and find them all. These evident influences and allusions encourage the viewer to feel a stronger sense of nostalgia as they watch Stranger Things. They immerse us into the time period and induce further sentiment for those that remember the era. Those who weren't even around in the 80s can enjoy the setting of the show too, since it's so well crafted. Even the retro, synth-heavy music used throughout the series further establishes the tone of the show. Also, it is fun to see the characters navigate situations with the limited technology they have during this time. Sure, there are telephones, but no cell phones that can assist you when you're lost or in danger. There's no internet for them to look up Planck's constant, so they literally had to radio someone who knows it. It adds to the drama and makes it scarier once you realize how bad it can be when you don't have access to the convenient technology that we have today. The 80s setting is not only a character in itself, but it plays well within the horror genre. Another thing about the show that sets it apart is its child main characters. We can relate to these kids since we've all been children at some point of our lives, and can remember how we acted at that age. We can imagine how we would have responded to these insane situations they are put in. Empathy allows us to visualize ourselves in their shoes. Additionally, all the child actors were basically unknown to most of the audience when the show started. So we were able to watch their story and be more immersed without being preoccupied with recognizing famous actors. The children bring a youthful innocence and lightheartedness to the show that contrasts the overall spooky atmosphere. Serious horror media with kids as the main characters tend to be a bit more uncommon, even though they can certainly be the most iconic, and for some obvious reasons. You know you're watching a more brutal show or movie when something really bad happens to a kid. Yes, I'm looking at you, Dr. Sleep. So in Stranger Things, the monsters are targeting the children, and that is certainly more terrifying than if we were following a group of adults, since we tend to have more sympathy towards innocent children. The young actors, and presumably the parents, have to be fine working with morbid subjects like death and other adult themes that are associated with the horror genre. Granted, in Stranger Things, they have yet to kill off a main child character, but I think the writers try to balance that out with the deaths of our favorite side characters. Anyway, having the series centered around kids adds to the scare value of the show. Some viewers, especially those only casually into horror, might find some scenes especially shocking since they involve children, but that in turn makes it more interesting to watch. Seeing these kids deal with these intense circumstances and figuring out how to beat the villain of that season is amusing to the viewers. We are rooting for them because they are the underdogs, and we're excited to see how exactly they save themselves from certain death. And now that we're several seasons in, we've watched these kids grow up. They are dealing with more mature problems and more violent threats, and the show gets darker because of it. The prominently 80s time period and our group of child protagonists are the main components of the show that work so well in the context of the sci-fi supernatural horror genre, and it really helped the series shine. The bleak situations, along with the violence in some adult situations, juxtapose the childlike sensibilities and retro aesthetic that make up our setting and characters. The nostalgia factor is strong and immerses us into the 80s. The era plays nicely with the genre, with its lack of convenient technology and internet, which adds drama and suspense in certain situations. As for the child actors, including kids in horror can be tricky, but when done well, it really pays off. We get to see how these children deal with otherworldly monsters, psychic powers, and top-secret science experiments, all while being nerdy outcasts and still worrying if their crush likes them or not. They relate their issues to their favorite game, Dungeons & Dragons, and it's fun to see how they come up with their own solutions to these supernatural threats. The setting and characters really made the series stand out from other shows and quickly established a cult following of fans, and with them bringing a massive amount of hype before each season. Now, just because a show is this immensely popular doesn't mean it's perfect. To be truthful, even though I enjoyed season 4, overall, the show is not one of my favorites. I did not enjoy season 3 that much, so I had low expectations for this season. However, I was pleasantly surprised. But I never wanted the show to fail, and I am happy it came back into its own this latest season. Seasons 1 and now 4 are definitely the best in my opinion. I remember Stranger Things being one of the earlier streaming-only shows that became this popular. And as we are now well into the streaming era, it has become a staple of modern-day television. As we can see, it was the right mixture of unique ingredients, and maybe a little bit of luck, that made it the global hit it is today. Even so, we can't forget that the series is also backed by great creative and marketing decisions to maximize its reach. Stranger Things has become a huge part of pop culture, with plenty of apparel, comic books, and board games to prove it. There are Halloween costumes, since the characters are so memorable, and even comedy skits making fun of iconic moments of the show. Even their release schedule this year seemed calculated to build more hype, by waiting to release the final 2 episodes a month after the rest, even though that is unusual for Netflix releases. They kept the conversations going online throughout the month of June, as everyone was anxiously awaiting the finale. On top of that, the latest season was more graphic than its predecessors, so people were rightfully shocked during some scenes, which led to more and more chatter online. I wasn't in a rush to watch season 4 initially, but people kept talking about it, so I gave in to see what all the fuss was about. Also, I was glad to see that this season seemed to return to season 1's strong emphasis on solving mysteries, and as we tried to unravel them along with the characters, we are drawn in more and more. This kept things interesting this season and promoted discussion online about whether our theories are correct and comparing our reactions to certain scenes with others. We talk, text, and tweet about it across the globe, which again continues to keep it trending on our socials. The creators, and I guess Netflix too, know what they are doing to get our attention and keep us hooked. Well, with this series at least, since I wish Netflix gave some of its other original content a chance, instead of just canceling them after only one season. But maybe that's another problem for another video. Anyway, I do think Stranger Things deserves popularity, in its own way. It's well crafted, unique, and obviously fun to watch and talk about. It deserves the hype, but only as long as it doesn't detract the masses away from other quality shows. Now, it's only a matter of time until the next and final season arrives, which I'm sure will likewise make its way around the world and onto our televisions, phones, and pizza boxes once again.